This is lesson 1.2, integers. Practice 11. Nudin is climbing up 1,200-meter high mountain. He starts 50 meters below sea level. Remember that sea level is at 0 meters. So if he starts at 50 meters below sea level, he starts at negative 50 meters. Then he climbs 250 meters up. If it's up, it's addition, positive. He takes a break and continues to climb another 425 meters. Nudin realizes that he dropped his lunch bag on the way and returns 205 meters to find it. Because he's returning, we need to subtract 205 meters or add a negative 205. Then he continues climbing for another 485 meters. Let's write an equation to find how much above the sea level is Nudin now. We start at negative 50. Then we climb 250 meters up, so plus 250. We take a break and go up another 425 meters, but then we have to go back, so we add a negative 205 meters. Then we continue climbing up another 485 meters. So that's 200 meters plus 425 minus 205, that's 220 meters plus 485. Altogether, it's 905 meters. So Nudin is 905 meters above sea level. Next, how much more does he need to climb to reach the top of the mountain? So he is at 905 meters. He needs to climb up to reach 1200 meters. We can call this distance that he needs to climb x, or we can call it change in height. Remember, the little triangle represents change. To find the change, the difference, it's always the top, the final height is 1200 meters minus the initial where he starts. So he's now at 905 meters and he needs to end up at 1200 meters. So he needs to climb up another 295 meters. Let's look at example 8. We record temperature at the same place. First, we recorded at 3 p.m. as at negative 5 degrees Celsius. We recorded again 8 hours later, and we see that the temperature now is lower. It is at negative 15 degrees Celsius. We want to find the change in temperature between 3 p.m. and 11 p.m. First, notice that the temperature dropped. It was negative 5, now it's negative 15, so it's lower. So the change in temperature must show a negative value. To represent the change, we use the little triangle. Temperature is the capital T. So change in temperature is the final temperature, we can call it T2, minus the initial temperature, we can call it T1. So the change in temperature is the final temperature minus the initial temperature. So we have negative 15 degrees Celsius final minus negative 5 degrees Celsius. Notice it is not minus 5, it is minus, and T1 is negative 5. Remember that subtracting a negative value is the same as adding its positive. So we have negative 15, positive 5. That means the answer is negative because negative value is larger. 15 minus 5 is 10. So the temperature dropped 10 degrees Celsius. Practice 12. The traveling weatherman Hrundi measured the temperature in Toronto and recorded positive 1 degree Celsius. He then teleported to Sudbury and measured the temperature of negative 8 degrees Celsius. Find the difference in temperature between Toronto and Sudbury. First, we have to figure out if the temperature increases or decreases when we go from Toronto to Sudbury. So it goes from 1 degree Celsius to negative 8 degrees Celsius. So we see that the change must be negative because it goes from positive 1 to negative 8. So the difference in temperature is the final negative 8 degrees Celsius minus the Toronto temperature where we start 1 degree Celsius. I'm going to change this to negative 8 degrees Celsius plus negative 1 degree Celsius. The difference in temperature between Toronto and Sudbury is negative 9 degrees Celsius. So the temperature dropped 9 degrees Celsius as Hrundi went from Toronto to Sudbury. And again, you can use a small diagram. This is 1, this is 0, negative 8. So first it had to drop 1 degree Celsius and then another 8 degrees Celsius. So altogether the temperature dropped 9 degrees Celsius. The temperature was measured at 6 p.m. to be 12 degrees Celsius below zero. So at 6 p.m. it was negative 12 degrees Celsius. If the temperature dropped 13 degrees Celsius overnight, what is the temperature in the morning? So at 6 p.m. evening, the temperature is negative 12 degrees Celsius below zero. Then the temperature dropped 13 degrees Celsius overnight. So minus 13 degrees Celsius. I'm going to rewrite it as negative 12 degrees Celsius plus negative 13 degrees Celsius. So the temperature in the morning is negative 12 plus negative 13, negative 25 degrees Celsius. Practice 14. The temperature in Sault Ste. Marie changed from negative 12 degrees Celsius at 8 a.m. to negative 2 degrees Celsius at noon. Calculate the change in temperature. So we start with negative 12 degrees Celsius. That's our first temperature. And later the temperature is negative 2 degrees Celsius. So that's our final. First, always ask yourself if the temperature increased or decreased. So it went from negative 12 to negative 2. So you see that there is an increase in temperature. So the change in temperature must be positive. To calculate the change in anything, we take the final value and subtract the initial value. So we have negative 2 degrees Celsius minus negative 12 degrees Celsius. That's the same as negative 2 degrees Celsius plus 12. Positive 12 minus 2, it's positive 10 degrees Celsius. Calculate the change. The temperature increased 10 degrees Celsius. Practice 15. The coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth was negative 88 degrees Celsius. The highest temperature ever recorded was 56.7 degrees Celsius in Furnace Creek Ranch located in Death Valley, United States. The coldest was in Antarctica. What is the difference between the highest temperature and the lowest temperature? So to find the difference between the hottest and coldest place, difference means subtraction, so 56.7 degrees Celsius minus negative 88 degrees Celsius, which is 56.7 plus 88 degrees Celsius. And that is 144.7 degrees Celsius. So the hottest place is 144.7 degrees Celsius hotter than the coldest place. We could also say that the coldest place is 144.7 degrees colder than the hottest place on Earth.